Friction. What is friction? Friction is a force that resists the motion between two surfaces in contact. It's a force. It's found between all touching things. It slows or stops things. And it makes heat. Some examples of friction include between a parachute and the air. In this case, friction's a good thing because it allows the parachute or the person skydiving to stop without going splat. There's friction between the brakes and the tires. This could be on a car or even on your bike. That's also a good thing because it allows you to stop your vehicle. There's also friction between your feet and the floor. This is good when you're trying to move forward. Why do you think I say that the spaceship and space is a non-example of friction? Well, there is no friction in space because there's no air molecules. So there's nothing for the spaceship to actually move against. Without friction, an object would continue to move at a constant speed forever. It would never stop, and it would never slow down if friction were not present. There are three factors that affect the amount of friction between two things: the type of surface, the force pressing the surfaces together, which relates to the mass of the objects, and the motion of the surfaces. Let's consider the type of surface for a moment. Imagine you're going sledding, and you take your sled and you go down a nice, smooth, snowy hill. Nice and fast, right? Then imagine taking that same sled and going up to the top of a concrete sidewalk hill. Not so fast. Yeah, because rougher surfaces produce greater friction than smooth surfaces. Another factor is the forces that press the surfaces together. Imagine sliding this empty box across your living room floor. Pretty easy, right? If you fill it with heavy objects, however, not so easy. That's because more mass creates more friction. Finally, how hard the surfaces press together is a factor. If you take a look at this chair, if someone sits on that chair, what we've essentially done is added mass, and it makes greater friction, harder for the chair to move. However, if you leave the chair alone and just tip it on its side, that does not create more friction. That's because friction depends on the total force pressing the surfaces together, not on how much area this force acts over, which is on page 87. There are three types of friction. The first is sliding friction, then there's rolling friction, and finally fluid friction. Sliding friction is a resistance to movement that's created when two things rub together. In this picture, the box wants to move toward the right, but friction is keeping it from doing that because friction is pushing towards the left. Rolling friction. This is when an object rolls over a surface. For example, a skateboard. The wheels on the skateboard and the ball bearings in the wheels are used to reduce friction between the floor and the skateboard. Eventually, though, the skateboard will still slow down and stop due to the friction between the floor and the skateboard. However, it will take a lot longer to stop than if you took the wheels off. If you took the wheels off and gave the skateboard a push, it wouldn't go very far at all because there would be greater friction. Finally, fluid friction. This is the force that tries to slow objects down when they move through a liquid or a gas. It's also known as drag or air resistance. All gases and liquids are fluids. An airplane and a swimmer both experience fluid friction. This is why airplanes are shaped the way they are. They're shaped with a pointed front end to cut through the air better and reduce fluid friction or air resistance. So what are some ways that you could reduce friction? Well, you could make the surfaces smoother. You could do something like putting ball bearings in the wheels. You could replace sliding friction with rolling friction. Or you could add oil or another type of lubricant. Friction and heat. Take a look at these three video clips. In each video clip, there is an example of friction. In each video clip, there is also heat being produced by that friction. Friction produces heat by making the molecules of the two surfaces move faster. Well, that's all there is about friction. Hopefully you've learned something.